Hello, friends. Namaskaram. After the devastation of World War II, the world stood at the crossroads. In 1945, delegation from 50 nations gathered in San Francisco to attempt the impossible to create a blueprint for a new world order designed to prevent future conflicts and promote lasting peace. In this video, we dive deep into the historic signing of the UN Charter, exploring the intense negotiation, the geopolitical tension, and the visionary goal that gave rise to the United Nations. From the ashes of the global war to the halls of international diplomacy, discover how this single document fundamentally changed the course of world history. Let's go. The year was 1945. The world has just endured a deadliest conflict in human history. Cities are in rubble, economies are shattered, and the moral fabric of the civilization feels frayed beyond repair. Out of this darkness, a question emerged. How do we ensure this never happens again? Today, we are going back to the moment the world decided to try something different. We aren't just looking at the historical event, we are looking at the foundation moment of our modern world. This is the story of signing of the UN Charter, a blueprint for a new world order that still dictates the rules of the global engagement today. Was it a triumph of diplomacy or a compromise that failed its own promise? Let's explore this further. To understand the birth of the UN, you have to understand its predecessor, the League of Nations. Founded after the World War I, the League was the world's first attempt at a global organization for peace. But it had a fatal flaw. It was essentially a toothless tiger. The United States never joined it. It lacked the military and economic enforcement power to stop some aggressor. When Japan invaded Manchuria, or even when the Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, the League issued statement of condemnation and watched as the aggressor ignored them. By 1939, the League was effectively dead. As the World War II raged, leaders like Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill knew that when the dust settled, they couldn't just try again with the same system. They needed something with real power. They needed a blueprint that could actually hold the world together. The concept didn't start in vacuum. It began in a secret meeting, the Atlantic Charter, in the year 1941. The Dumbarton Oak Conference in 1944. The goal was to create an organization that represents the United Nations, a term actually coined by Roosevelt himself. In the year 1945, in the month of April, just weeks after FDR's death and before the war in Europe officially ended, represented from 50 nations, descended on San Francisco. They weren't there for a celebration. They were there for an autopsy of the old world and a surgery for the new one. Imagine the pressure. The war is in the Pacific was still brutal, and that at that time it was still going on. The revelation of the Holocaust were just beginning to reach the world's ear. The delegates were tasked with drafting a constitution for humanity, and they did it in just 2 months. The resulting document, the UN Charter, was and is the closest thing we have to the World Constitution. It established the core pillars: the General Assembly for talks, the Security Council for action, and the International Court of Justice for law. If you look at the structure, it's brilliant. It's not very perfect, but it is a good design. It gave the five major power of the time, which is US, UK, USSR, France, and China, a permanent seat and veto power in the Security Council. Critics argued that this created an exclusive club. Supporters argued that without that specific compromise, the major power would have never signed on. The whole project would have collapsed before it actually started. The charter was designed to be a living document, a blueprint that could adapt. It prioritized sovereignty, yes, but it also introduced the radical idea that human rights were not just an internal national affair, but a global concern. That was a shift that changed the international law forever. So, 80 years later, how are we doing on this today? If you look at the news, it's easy to be cynical. Conflict still happens. The Security Council often gridlocks. The UN can feel like taking sides or taking shape, etc. But look closer. Since 1945, there hasn't been a direct military conflict between the major global powers. The UN Charter created a venue where even the fiercest enemy have to sit at the same table. It eradicated the smallpox, provided aid to millions of refugees, and codified the rules of the sea, air, and space. The charter wasn't just a piece of paper in 1945, it was a choice to prioritize rules over chaos. And every day the world makes its choice again, sometimes successfully, sometimes failing, but always within the framework that was signed in San Francisco. The United Nations is not perfect. It is, by definition, a reflection of us, the nations and the people of the world. It's a tool, and a tool is only as good as the hand that wields it. Whether the UN remains a relic of the past, war era, or evolves into more effective instrument for the future is the challenge of our generation. So, friends, what do you think? Did the architects of the 1945 get it right, or do we need a new blueprint for the 21st century? Drop in your thoughts in the comments below, and we can have discussion on some of your comments in the future videos. If you enjoyed this dive into the history that shapes our present, make sure to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. We have plenty of more deep dives coming up, lined up in the future, which will help us understand the world that we live in. I am CK. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.